Okay, so what really happens when your head hits the pillow? For decades, we've all been told the same story. The brain just switches off. It's a passive rest to recharge for the next day. But what if that whole idea is completely wrong? What if, instead of shutting down, your brain is actually clocking in for its most important shift of the day?
And this, right here, gets to the very heart of a huge paradigm shift. For years, we've been operating under this myth that sleep is passive, that the brain running on glucose just kind of slows down. But the reality, it's way more exciting. Sleep is actually an active metabolic shift, where the brain literally switches its fuel source over to lipids and ketones to power some incredibly intense restorative work. So where's the proof for this metabolic reality? Well, it turns out the sleeping brain leaves behind a very distinct biological signature, one that looks completely different from its waking state. Let's dig into the data. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Check out the hard data. When you're awake, your respiratory quotient, or RQ, is about 1.0, which is a clear sign you're burning carbs. But during that deep, non-REM sleep, it drops below 0.9. That's a dead giveaway of a shift to burning fat. The primary fuel source literally flips from glucose to fatty acids and ketones. And get this, lactate, which is a byproduct of burning glucose, plummets by 34%. This isn't a resting brain. This is a brain that has fundamentally changed its entire fuel system. Okay, so if the brain is making this huge fuel switch every single night, how in the world does it actually pull it off? How does it tap into this powerful alternative energy? Well, let's meet the brain's highly efficient ketone engine. It all happens in 3 key steps. First, as we sleep, free fatty acids in our bloodstream rise and are able to cross the blood-brain barrier. Second, they enter these amazing specialized cells called astrocytes. Now, you should think of the astrocyte as your brain's own personal tiny oil refinery. It takes those raw fats and through a process called beta oxidation, it refines them into clean-burning ketone bodies. Then finally, in step 3, these perfect little ketones are handed off to the neuron to be used as high-octane energy. And here is that beautiful metabolic handoff in action. The astrocyte is the refinery, doing the hard work of making the fuel. Then the neuron is the consumer, using those ketones to produce a huge amount of ATP or energy. This system is just incredibly efficient and perfectly suited for all the deep work that happens during sleep, like neural repair and locking in memories. But hold on, because this is where the story gets even more fascinating. It turns out that ketones aren't just a cleaner, more efficient fuel. They have a surprising dual identity that goes way beyond just producing energy. So what's amazing is that ketones are playing 2 roles at once. On one hand, yes, they're a superior fuel, producing more energy than glucose with less oxygen. But on the other hand, they're also powerful signaling molecules. They help regulate adenosine to calm the central nervous system. They balance neurotransmitters, and they even work epigenetically to quiet down neuroinflammation. It's like getting premium fuel that also tunes up the engine at the same time. This dual role even extends to protecting our cells. The process of making ketones, which is called ketogenesis, isn't just about making energy. It also acts as a kind of metabolic pressure valve for our mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells. And here's what that looks like. On the left, with impaired ketogenesis, a substance called acetyl-CoA builds up and up inside the mitochondria, causing all sorts of stress and damage. But on the right, with active ketogenesis working properly, all that excess pressure is safely vented as ketone bodies, which preserves the health of our mitochondria. It's just a profoundly protective mechanism. Okay, so this brain night shift is real, it's powerful, and it's absolutely critical for our health. So the big question then becomes, can we do more than just let it happen? Can we actively engineer our own recovery by making this process even better? Now, before we go any further, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Hold on a minute, I've heard of keto insomnia. If ketones are so great for recovery, why does some people actually struggle with sleep when they start a keto diet? And you know what? That is a fantastic question, and it highlights a really critical detail. This explains something we call dietary friction. You see, on the left, carbohydrates help your body produce things like serotonin, which eventually leads to the sleep hormone melatonin. But on the right, that initial switch to a high-protein, low-carb diet can actually increase alertness chemicals like epinephrine. It's like a temporary neurological tug-of-war while your body gets adapted. So, how do we get the benefits without all that friction? Well, this matrix compares the different ways to get into ketosis. While strict ketogenic diets and fasting can cause some of that initial sleep disruption, just look at the options on the right: MCT supplements and especially exogenous ketone esters. They can actually support or directly enhance sleep, even when you're still eating carbs.
And this chart illustrates that point perfectly. Look, even with high carbohydrate availability, taking MCTs or exogenous ketones shows a positive impact on sleep. This is a real game changer. It effectively decouples the benefits of ketosis from having to do severe dietary restriction. You can get the recovery without the friction.
And this just completely reframes our understanding. Ketosis isn't just some byproduct of starvation or extreme dieting. It's a state we can actively use to mimic and engineer the biological signature of our deepest recovery.
And we actually have the clinical data to prove it. Check out this sleep architecture rescue curve. The gray line shows sleep after a really strenuous workout. It's fragmented, REM sleep is suppressed, it's a mess. But the orange line, that shows what happens when you add exogenous ketones. Boom! Sleep efficiency improves and REM sleep is restored. It's a direct intervention that can literally rescue your sleep quality when it's under stress.
So how do we put all of this amazing information together into a simple, actionable strategy? Well, the key is to understand and master your body's dual engine.
This blueprint really says it all. The day phase is run by your glucose engine. You use strategic carbs for alertness, for drive, for output, but the night phase, that belongs to the ketone engine. The goal here is to maximize recovery, neuro repair, and rest. It's a truly beautiful system. Like the caption says, fuel for the output of the day, engineer the chemistry of the night.
So let's do a quick recap of the key takeaways here. Number 1, sleep is an active metabolic shift, not passive rest. 2, your brain naturally wants to switch to a ketone-based fuel system at night. 3, ketones are about the superior fuel and a powerful signaling molecule for repair. 4, and this is a big one, you can engineer this recovery state without making extreme dietary changes. And finally, it all comes down to mastering your dual engine: fuel for the day, engineer for the night.
Which leaves us with one final thought to take with you. As you go about your life, just ask yourself this. Are you only thinking about fueling your day, or are you starting to think about how you can consciously engineer your night